news and basketball analysis with over 70 years combined experience. This is the Bob Ryan and Jeff Goodman podcast.
NBA, some college, a little bit of everything.
You know, what can I say? But it wasn't going to happen here with him.
It's that time for the Bob Ryan, Jeff Goodman, and Tanguay Along for the Ride podcast, a proud member of the CLNS Media Network. The show is brought to you by PrizePicks, North America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Download today. Use code CLNS to get $50 when you play 5. PrizePicks. Run your game. Gents, we actually have some NBA games to talk about. Generally, I am not a big NBA preseason fan at all, but I think it's right there with spring training. But nonetheless, it's good to see the Celtics back on the floor. Bob, I know you were watching. Your impressions of the Celtics so far?
With the proviso and the obvious statement that it's an exhibition game, and there was a great statement I'm going to get to from Scal about what he was watching. But with all that acknowledgement, I think this is more. I was really curious and interested as much as any year I can recall, because we all want to know what's going to happen without Tatum. We want to see what and there's a bunch of new guys, and where any one or all any of them can fit in. Okay, so my takeaway from this game, I mean, the obvious, James Brown. Oh my God, Jaylen Brown had 21 points, 15 the first half. He looked like Jaylen Brown. I'll just start with that. That's reassuring. Okay, fine. Derek White, about whom no one on this earth has any right to ever say anything bad about, and no one does. All he'd come up with was 16 points and 10 assists, and looked indispensable when he wasn't on the floor. That's another issue we'll get to. But there were takeaways of glimmers of, maybe we got something here from some people. Start off with Luka Garza. Luka Garza did some good things. Could he evolve into this year's Cornet? That's asking a lot, because I was big on Cornet. But he did some really good things on both ends of the floor. And maybe he knows who he is at 23, and who he isn't. Okay. Chris Boucher, that sucker's been around, no question. And not around, he was in Toronto mostly, but he's 32, and he's a one-way, he's a finesse player. But he had a play where he blocked the shot, kept it in bounds, and started a fast break, which is the Bill Russell ideal that you don't see too damn often, ever, anywhere. Okay. And he did some good things. And then a guy that just last Monday night, I was with Brad Stevens at the ABCD function, and a guy he mentioned that I should keep my eye on, it was Josh Minot. And he went out and did a lot of good things. He's a 6'6" athlete, young, untutored, but eager. And so just those 3 takeaways to give you some, some points of interest.
I actually think, here's what I think, Bob. I think the guy that has a chance to go from a guy that really wasn't going to play much at all to has a chance to carve out a real role this year is Baylor Shireman.
Oh, he had a good game. I want to believe in him, because I'm, so South Dakota State centric that I want to root for Baylor Shireman. And also, by the way, Hauser looked like Hauser.
Yeah.
He did the Hauser thing.
Here's what I'll say. All right, before you start putting these guys in the Hall of Fame, Bob, I want to read off some names. Okay, I want to read off some names of who the opposition was in this game.
Oh,
okay.
Oh, I know. Okay.
Cedric Coward hasn't played an NBA game yet. Sandy Aldama came out of Loyola, Maryland. Lawson Lovering has not played an NBA game. Jalen Wells, Javon Small has not played an NBA game. PJ Hall has not played an NBA game. Camp Spencer is second year. Gigi Jackson hasn't played a lot of NBA basketball. John Conchar, Vince Williams, Olivier Maxence Prosper, Braxton Key, and Tyler Burton, who is from Massachusetts, out of Richmond, and then Villanova has not played an NBA game. So before we start hyping up this team based on, and even their peripheral players, based on a preseason game, understand this is a G League team that they played against. An upper tier, a team that wins the G League.
So. I think
they win the
G League.
But there's no John Morant. There was no Brandon Clark. There's no Zach Edey. There's no Ty Jerome. Like, they're missing Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. They literally didn't have 5 of their top 7 guys.
I understand that. Now, I'll flip this over. Of course, you're right. No rational person could deny anything you just said. And I like to think I alluded to it. At least maybe I wasn't strong enough. But what if the Celtics showed nothing? What if nobody? I mean, these guys. I mean,
somebody's got to score, Bob. Somebody's got to put up points in these games. Somebody's got to grab a rebound. It wasn't just about points. Okay.
And by the way, no, that's and to this point, Scal, he had a great night. He had a great opening night, Brian Scalabrine, I thought. And one of the things he said was, and somewhere I forget whether it was the second or third quarter. Anyway, he said, "I admit I am 1,000,000% overreacting right now." So he caught himself. He gave us the skinny, And there's one other thing that he brought up that I just have to mention because it's one of my favorite all-time stories. He was talking about Boucher, and Boucher talking about hustle, and it's part of the deal. And it reminds me of one of my all-time favorite lines I ever got, guys, in all these years of covering the league. In 1972-3 season, Dave Cowens went down to Cap Center and got 28 rebounds in a victory over the Washington Bullets, who featured Elvin Hayes and Wes Unseld. Okay. And after the game, I asked Gene Shue, the coach of the Bullets, what if a Kareem or a Lanier played as hard as those guys, as Cowan specifically did? And he said, doesn't happen. Hustle is part of ability. I've always remembered that line. I never heard it from anybody else specifically. So anyway, I just called the map to mind because of when Scal made the allusion to what Boucher was saying about playing hard, So anyway, that's all. There was a glimmer of hope. Just a little something to hang your hat. I'm just pointing out, it was just something to hang your hat on for one night. But absolutely, they didn't play an NBA team. I know that.
But I will also remind Mr. Goodman, and it pains me to do this, but I have to quote Michael Felger. We have a show to do today.
I hear you. I'm just trying to.
Jeff, you're right.
I'm just trying to put it into context here. Who they played against.
Yeah, and that's good.
And that's Derek White playing against this team, Jaylen Brown playing against these guys. They should look like the best players on the planet.
One other guy I forgot to mention who showed something, and you could project theoretically into some time. His name is Hugo Gonzalez, we're told, not Hugo. But the Spaniard, Hugo Gonzalez. He showed some good stuff. So just another name to throw around,
there are, again, Gary, there are a couple of guys that I think this year is going to be interesting for.
Okay, break it down. You already mentioned Sheridan.
Anthony Simons, who didn't play.
Didn't play.
Going to be very interesting because, again, can he do enough on the main stage where either you're going to keep him and he can be a piece to build around, or you bring up his trade value and move him. Okay, so he's going to be a huge component this year, no matter what. I think Baylor Shireman and I think Ugo, those are guys you're going to look at. Other than that, I just don't. Again, Luka Garza is kind of the antithesis in a way of Luke Cornett in that. And I know what you're trying to say, Bob. Can he carve out a role? Can he?
Yeah.
He is the opposite in some ways because Luke Cornett was all about what? Defense, right? Defense
and rim protection.
Garza's completely opposite. Yeah. He can score, he'll rebound, but he can't guard. So, again, to me, Neemias Queta, you got Amari Williams, you got Garza, you got Tillman, you got 4 guys that should be battling their asses off every day in practice because they've all got an opportunity here. They saw what Luke Cornett did a year ago, right? They know what he's making money-wise right now. And I'm sure they're all looking at it like, man, that could be me in a year or two.
You mentioned Queta, and I believe that if this were the real opening night tonight, he will be the starting center. They're not starting 5-man. He's going to emerge. He didn't play. Pritchard didn't play. Okay. One thing that we jumped out at me a little bit, and it was mentioned in and I think Brian Scalabrine made an allusion to it. When White wasn't on the floor, the offense had no leader.
Right.
And at that point, now, so with that group, there was no heir apparent point guard at all. Now Pritchard didn't play, but he's not a point. We know he's not a point guard. He's a tremendous undersized two. We know that, and he is who he is, and I love him, and you know that. But he could fulfill the role to a degree, I think. Anyway, White is indispensable to this whatever they're going to accomplish this year. I think that's pretty safe to say. And there we go. All right,
this is just to get off the topic of the preseason, but White's indispensable, and as we saw, a healthy Drew Holiday and a Porzingis are indispensable. So I think the feeling is, or the misconception, and Jeff, I'll throw this at you to respond first. The misconception is if Tatum was healthy, everything would be fine, and I'm telling you that's not the case.
Oh no, and that's because we must.
Everybody moved up. Everybody moved up the scout, right? Everybody moved up. Jaylen Brown went from 2 to 1. Derek White went from, I don't know. I mean, last year he's probably 3 a lot of nights, but like 3, 4. Some nights he was 5. He went up to clear 2. And they don't have as much help around him as Tatum had when he was number 1.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a totally different team. Can we talk about the video, by the way, of Jayson Tatum dunking?
Yeah, it came just before we get to that, though. But Bob, what I was saying was, maybe you misheard me, Jeff. Even if Tatum's healthy, this is a different team without Porzingis and Holiday.
Totally.
Of course.
I think because he's hurt this year, everybody thinks, oh well, we just have to wait a year. And there's still some issues. That's all.
And for the 1,000th time, I feel compelled to point out to anybody who doesn't get it that I got the word directly from his lips to my ears to make sure the other night that yes, even if they had won the championship, the Porzingis and Holiday deals would have to have been made.
They win, right?
Okay. That's it. Oh, just people have to understand that.
Right.
It's about the dreaded second apron.
Jeff, go ahead. I'm sorry. Your thought on what we saw.
Well, it's interesting because we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, when Tatum came out and said, or whatever, I forget who said that he might play this year. It might have been him.
He's been
don't rule it out.
He's been out there. I mean, it's out there.
Right.
I mean, he's working out in front of the media.
And that, again, we threw caution to the wind. I think all three of us at that point, like, hey, he can say whatever he wants. He can do whatever he wants. It doesn't matter because he's still months away from you having to make that decision. But I will say, watching that video of him jump off 2 feet and dunk, what are we at, 4 or 5 months in now to his rehab?
May. So, yeah, 5 months.
5 months. Yeah, about 5 months in. Normally these things are like a year. And, again, I still go back to the same thing I said a few weeks ago, which is, unless this team clearly overachieves and they're in the hunt and you're looking at the East and being like, man, the East sucks. And somebody goes down for the Knicks and it's wide open and and even then, I don't know if you do it because you don't want to push this guy along too fast, even though he wants to. They're two totally different things. What the player wants and what the team and the doctors and the medical personnel want, two totally different things. So he can say he can do whatever he wants. But because he's dunking off 2 feet right now does not mean he's close to being able to come back and play in a real game.
I don't think it was a good idea because it's potential to whet fans' appetites too much. It's not a good idea. So I wish he hadn't done it, frankly. I'd rather just talk about it, but he did it. One other thing you mentioned, the East and all that, the ESPN projection for the wins was 45, the same as the Pacers, which I would take, and I'll take that. I'll sign up for that right now myself with my level of pessimism about things in general. So I'll take 45. That'll be a reasonably satisfying season for me, unless I see something extraordinarily, we don't see now off the bat that tells me they should be better. But I'll take that. So I'm okay with that.
Well,
if they can do that, that's great.
Jeff, when we say a year, just so we're clear, does that generally mean a year to come back to play or a year to actually be competitive in practice? So when you say a year, because that is May, to be activated.
Yeah, I think May he could be back to like, yeah, he could probably practice. My guess is a year. Yeah, he could be
So
ready,
if
but
they're in
but
the
at that
hunt, so
point,
here's the problem, and I agree with you. Sit out the whole year. I think we're all on the same page. But here's the challenge. All of a sudden, they get in the playoffs. Maybe they're in the 10th or ninth, and they win the opening game or whatever, and they find themselves in the second round, and it's May.
right, you're not putting him back out there then. You
He's going to
just
want to
can't.
play.
You can't.
Well, I agree with you, but here's my concern. Who runs the team? Jayson Tatum runs the team. Let's face it. He's
Yeah, he
so
does.
tired.
He does. But here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say. His mom, his agent are smart enough to tell Jayson Tatum it is not worth it. It
Oh,
is not worth it to go out there and blow out your Achilles again, and then you're never going to be the same player if you
right.
do this twice.
Well,
So yes, the player always wants to get out there as quickly as possible. I get it. They should. They should. They don't want to sit if they think they can
Right.
play, but they also don't understand. And I assume Jayson Tatum will talk to a Kevin Durant, some of the other guys who have gone through this in the past. And hopefully they would be able to tell him, like, hey, man, there's just no reason to rush back for this. You're gonna miss a year, and it's not like, again, the Boston Celtics are gonna be competing for another NBA title this year. So what's the point? What's the point?
great, granted, I agree. I totally agree.
All right, we're going to get back to the show in just a minute, but right now I got to tell you about PrizePicks, the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. You just pick more or less like Drake May. He's been hot for the Patriots. What do you think? 2 or more touchdown passes this season. Or if you're feeling negative, 2 or more interceptions in this game. Not this season. I said this season. I meant this upcoming game. Puka Nacua, 7 or more receptions. What do you think? The guy's been averaging like 10.5 a game. It's as simple as this. Make your pick with PrizePicks. And PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When your picks hit, you can get your money in as quick as 15 minutes. Plus, they invented Flex Play, which means you can still cash out of your lineup when it isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks does not hit. And don't forget, they have special deals like Taco Tuesday. Every Tuesday, PrizePicks will discount several projections on the board, usually by 15 to 25%. So download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. Sometimes money and finances can be a real headache. It can be confusing. It can be stressful. Well, we want to help you with that. Feel organized and confident with your finances with Monarch Money, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings all of your financials together, all of your different accounts. Boom, one clean interface on your laptop or your phone, so you can just take a quick look and see how I'm doing. And right now, listeners, Monarch is offering 50% off your first year. So you can maximize your investments, increase your saving rate. Like I said, it's easy to take a look at your numbers. You can keep a clear view of your financial health. That's how it works. Monarch can also give your partner full access to a shared dashboard so they don't have to keep asking you about it. They can just look for themselves, including linked accounts, budgets, goals, and spending activity, all in one place at no extra cost. And they were named the best budgeting app in 2025 by the Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal, folks. No slouch. So don't let this financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code HOOPS at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code HOOPS. For those of you listening to this show, we ask that you subscribe to the podcast, like, and leave a review. And for those of you watching the show on CLNS, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the Celtics All Access YouTube channel, where you can find our show and a lot of other great Celtics content. Also, please make sure to turn off your notifications so you know the instant a new video drops. Yeah. Bob, have you seen or read anything, and Jeff, I'll ask you to follow up with Bob, about Mazzulla changing his ways as far as the fast break this year with this new roster?
I don't know if I actually see something specific. I think he definitely wants to play with tempo. We did see that. We definitely, and the metrics showed that they were one of the biggest walk-up teams in the league, and they tried to push it the other night more than we used to seeing. So I'm taking that as a sign that he's going to adjust with this changing personnel. I'm going to adjust. Remember, they were isocentric because of Tatum more than anything.
Right.
And Brown secondly, and Tatum is an ISO player often, way to an extreme, and he's not there. So I'm giving Joe the benefit of the doubt that yes, he sees that they got to change their ways. Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because again, with Tatum, you knew you give him the ball and he can create something out of nothing, pretty much whenever he wants. With Jaylen being the number one guy, and it's like in the half court, he struggles at times.
Right.
And now you're going to have maybe two guys on him, a guy waiting for him. He gets by one guy, you're going to have another guy waiting for him. And we know Jaylen's handle is not the tightest. So it is going to be very interesting to see how this thing works. I just remember, and I don't know if I told you guys this a couple weeks ago, but I just remember Draymond before this team flipped it and talking to him years ago and him saying to me flat out, like, this team isn't that hard to guard back when it was Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And that was, before that was like 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that's going to be a similar thought now for teams going up against the Celtics team is like, hey, we got two guys to worry about. This isn't going to be hard to defend.
Keep that idea on the shelf so you can pull it off for Thanksgiving, Christmas, Patriots Day. Okay. And say, hey, see, I told you so. Yeah. Okay. I like that. That's very good. Okay.
Yeah, he's definitely, I mean, he's right. He's right. It's going to be I'm just interested in Mazzulla because to me, we're going to find out if he can coach.
You better adapt. You better figure out the best way to play with this group. But again, I think what you're going to find is, well, if you've got two of your top 5 players are named Peyton Pritchard and Sam Hauser, how do you think they're going to play?
Well, you're going to shoot threes, sure.
You may shoot more. Yeah. You may shoot more than you did last year. Yeah. Because, again, those guys are definitely more pure shooters than what you have with Jayson Tatum, who's a scorer, or certainly Drew Holiday when he was in there, or even Porzingis. You could throw him around the basket. Like Hauser is a stretch 4. That's what he is. Pritchard is at his best when he's shooting the ball from deep. He can do some other things, but so I think honestly you're going to get more of the same.
Well, to your point, if they're going to be on tempo and not worrying about waiting for Jayson Tatum, yeah, they'll be shooting off the break. Yeah, maybe more. All right, well, to be seen, boys. That's why.
What I hope is I think there's nothing wrong with also, and maybe wishful thinking, since Jaylen Brown doesn't have the best handle, there's nothing wrong with running some offense for Jayson Brown so he can go to the hoop off the catch. And that's something I'd like to see more of as opposed to just Jaylen, shooting up threes. I mean, Jaylen Brown is a hell of an athlete. I want to see him around the hoop.
I wouldn't underestimate his intelligence and ability to reasonably adapt to this new situation. I'm giving him
I hope so.
I'm in a big benefit of the doubt mode for him and Mazzulla. And so we'll see.
Well, yeah. I mean, and in all fairness, Bob, that's the way to be. But it's a big test for both. The way I look at it, if Brown wants to prove that he's a number one, Jayson Tatum proved to me, not to the world, but to my own little basketball pea brain, that he was a complete pet player when the shots weren't falling and they won a title. And he was leading the team in defensive rebounds and he was getting assists and he was playing defense and he was going to the basket. And I was like, okay, now we got a guy. If we could see Jaylen Brown, because you knew he was going to shoot threes again. Now, if you can get Jaylen Brown to do that, because to me, Bob, Jaylen Brown, this year for the team to be successful, when Jaylen Brown's on the floor, he has to impact every play. He cannot disappear.
Meanwhile, there's some news out in L.A., guys.
Go ahead. What do we got, Bob?
Well, we got LeBron idled for 3 to 4 weeks, supposedly, to start due to sciatica sciatica condition. I can relate to that. It ain't no fun, and it can be eternally, constantly painful and debilitating. So I can relate to that, and I got past it, and he will too, I'm sure. But I wasn't 41 years old at the time. I can tell you that. I was not that far away actually, but anyway. Anyway, that's news, and how that impacts the beginning of their season, etc. And also their long-term ramifications as about, okay, is mortality finally going to set in with the 41-year-old marvel of 23 seasons? Maybe it is.
I think that's fair. I think this is probably it for LeBron. I think this is probably it. But maybe he goes one more. The interesting thing is going to be, we know some guys do the tour, right? Some guys announce it beforehand. They get the ovations everywhere they go. I don't know which is better. I actually kind of like the tour. I just think, yeah, I do too. I mean, LeBron deserves a tour.
Of course
he deserves a tour. So I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. The question is, like, when do you do it? If you're going to do it, do you announce it now? Or maybe he just hasn't come to that conclusion. Maybe this injury will help him decide, like, hey, you know what? I'm not sure I can keep doing this beyond.
That's what I'm thinking.
Right.
Now, meanwhile, if he's going to do a tour, the fact is that he did something else this week that can detract from his essential popularity. And that is that nonsense he did with the Hennessy thing about a second decision, teasing people who should have known better, maybe. But meanwhile, it's crass, it's unbecoming, it's stupid. What kind of advice did he get to try to do this nonsense about all the hullabaloo about a second decision? And he's endorsing Hennessy's, which
amazing.
Not like endorsing a beer, I'll give you that. It's a little higher level, but wow, he overplayed his hand, and no one was able to.
He should
stop
know
him.
better. Like, don't promote it, because you know how people are going to react here. They're going to think that you're retiring, and instead to do this.
Well, that's why they did it. And Hennessy probably listened to Hennessy, because for Hennessy, this is great. That's what they wanted.
LeBron, you make enough money. You make enough money. You don't need to make a little bit more from Hennessy. Like, come on, what do we do?
Jeff, you know how it is. I mean, the Hollywood types, ever since Clooney, what did Clooney have? Clooney had something like a vodka or something sold for $100.
Yeah.
So then Clooney's got one, and Ryan Reynolds has got one, and this guy's got one, and that guy's got one, and so LeBron wants one. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, there seems to be no end to it with him though now, and that's disturbing.
But I would like to say this, because there are still some LeBron haters out there, and I don't know why. I mean, the first decision was overplayed; it didn't work out. But to me, LeBron he's been a stand-up guy. He's been a great player. The argument's going to go on forever. Other than the centers, like Lou Alcindor, is it LeBron? Is it Michael? Is it LeBron? Is it Michael? Well, that's perpetual.
That's fine. That's a good sports argument.
It's going to go on forever. But what I want to say to people, or what I want to say about LeBron, is imagine if he had not come along. That's the thing. I mean, I think that this guy does deserve a tour, Jeff. I hope he gets one. I hope he goes to every arena and they stand on their goddamn feet and they give him a 15-minute ovation.
And I hope Steph gets the same
Steph
tour.
too. I mean, where would the league be without these guys?
Yeah.
And they deserve all the glory in the world.
Right.
I think Jeff would agree with what I'm about to say, is that LeBron's one of the handful of all-time players who was completely ballyhooed to be the second coming in high school and who did live up to it.
Right.
Because there have been others who did not. And my theory is that most of the inner sanctum great players, most of them in the league's history, turned out to be better even than people thought. And that includes Larry Bird and Magic. Yeah. Better even in the pros than people realized. Particularly Larry, for a lot of people, thought he was not athletic enough, blah, blah, blah. You know that. Okay. And he's one guy, the cover of Sports Illustrated, at 15 was it, Jeff? And he lived up to it all. And so it doesn't happen that often. Trust me.
When I saw him the first time I ever saw him play, it took me literally 2 minutes to say, like, this dude can't miss. You know how sometimes you're just like, can't miss.
Sure.
Like 2 minutes and you're like, holy shit, he's he's better than everybody's told me, because you heard about it, right? This young kid coming out of Akron. Oh, you got to see him. And I had seen enough of these kids covering recruiting. And then you saw him and you were like, okay, he's different. And
No.
again, he was different because not only does he have the physical tools, he's got the mental capacity to just think the game at a different level than 99.9% of the people that ever played the game.
I was among the skeptics, and I remember writing a thing for Basketball Times about how he had been on national television. I refused to watch, and because I said, I've seen every, and here's what I said in my somewhat pompous way that time. I've seen every great player of the last 50 years. I can wait.
Yeah.
Well, he lived it. He lived up to it.
He did it.
Power to him.
Another guy that, even though he plays for Miami and Riley, in the end, I root for him now, is Spoelstra, who Bob is going to be coaching the U.S. team.
This is the biggest foregone conclusion, I think, of that nature we could have had. He's been on that track. He's been the heir apparent in theory, I think, and he's got it now. And what a story! He goes from the video guy, the nobody, and he's going to the Hall of Fame, and he's got this honor, and he's going to have to do some coaching. We're not going to have the same group. It's going to be interesting, but he deserves this job, and we're in good hands, I think, with him. And congratulations to you, Eric Spoelstra. I think it's a well-deserved honor.
Yeah, I like how they've done this, a different coach for every Olympics too, right? The last four, it's been Kay, Popovich, Kerr, and now Spo. And I actually like rotating it every Olympics. Just give it to somebody different. Yeah. Why not?
Well, he's the perfect. I can't even think of who's runner-up right now.
Who would be next after Spo? Who's next?
I don't know. We're going to check it out.
Yeah, it's a great question. There's not an easy one.
I down the road, I'm just throwing it out there. Down the road, if we project, then the guy at Oklahoma City is put himself on the track to head that way. Let's see what he does, is how they defend, and how they can keep it going and all that. But
I got one for 4 years from now if he's still doing this. Why not give it to Rick Carlisle?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine with that.
Right. Bingo. Give it to Rick Carlisle.
I'm fine with that.
Right. He's the perfect guy.
I admit a personal bias. So
yeah, but even taking that out of the equation, he's done it for a long time. He's adapted. We know he can coach. I think he would have fun with that one. I think he would be looser than he's ever been with that type of, at this point in his life. How old is Rick now?
65, believe it or not.
What is he?
65, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, he was 70. A 25-year-old rookie.
Yeah. Yeah, he'd be 70. Yeah. I mean, who knows?
Has Izzo coached the Olympic team?
No, they won't do another college guy. They won't do another college.
There's nobody out there that deserves it to even think about it.
Even Izzo? No.
I mean, Izzo would be great at it, and he's turned down multiple. It's funny.
All right.
I was told, and I haven't confirmed this 100 with him, but I was told that they try to get him again with Phoenix this year.
Oh,
that he basically thought about it because again, the owner was under Izzo at Michigan State, so he ended up hiring Jordan Knott, a young guy who was a video guy for Izzo at Michigan State, but Izzo's turned down 3 or 4 NBA jobs over the course.
Sure. And why wouldn't you? Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't. If I were him, I wouldn't. No way. No. Absolutely not. I also think that this guy would be a good Olympic coach, but it would never happen, is Billy Donovan.
Oh, I love Billy. I mean, I think Billy,
coach, but he doesn't
gave Billy the talent. The problem is he's got the worst talent in the NBA. Right. But yes, if you get Billy's phenomenal with people. He's a really good coach. He's just he hasn't had enough talent since he had KD and Russ early days in Oklahoma City. He just hasn't had enough.
Right. All right, gents, that'll do it for another week of Bob Ryan, Jeff Goodman, Tanguay along for the ride. Coming up later in the week, Bob Ryan is going to play a little game of what if. What if, heaven forbid, Larry Bird was drafted by the Knicks? That's later on in the week. Boom, here at CLNS Media.